Old Hollywood sold us a dream: glittering gowns, tuxedos, champagne flutes, and red carpets. But behind the scenes? That champagne turned into addiction, and the red carpet led straight to ruin. These stars weren't just famous, they were worshipped. Their faces on billboards, their names in lights. But night after night, they drank until those lights went out. This isn't about gossip. This is about 13 legendary actors and actresses who drank themselves into oblivion. Some lost their careers, others lost everything. You might know their names, but you don't know what the bottle did to them. Number 13. Barbara Payton, Hollywood's forgotten wreck. Barbara Payton had the looks, the charm, and the fast track to stardom. In the early 1950s, she lit up the screen alongside James Cagney, Gary Cooper, and Gregory Peck. But behind that camera-ready smile was a woman spiraling fast. She drank hard, fought harder, and stumbled from one scandal to the next. Drunken brawls, toxic affairs, and arrests for everything from bad checks to public intoxication. She went from glamorous movie sets to sleeping on bus stop benches in a bathing suit, coat barely clinging to her fading beauty. Her descent was brutal. She lost custody of her son, turned to prostitution, and aged decades in just a few years. By 39, she was nearly unrecognizable, bloated, broken, and found dead from heart and liver failure. Barbara Payton wasn't just destroyed by alcohol. She was erased by it. Number 12. Jan Michael Vincent, the star who crashed himself. He was called the next big thing: chiseled jawline, piercing eyes, and a paycheck that made him the highest paid actor on television. But Jan Michael Vincent didn't just lose it all, he wrecked it, glass by glass. Fame came easy, too easy, and with it came alcohol, cocaine, and a cocky disregard for consequences. On the set of Airwolf, producers begged him to stay sober. Instead, he showed up wasted, slurring lines, causing delays, crashing cars. One accident broke his neck. Another cost him his leg. He didn't just ruin takes, he ruined his career. He went from starring opposite legends like Charles Bronson and Burt Reynolds to stumbling through low-budget films, bloated and barely coherent. By the end, Jan looked nothing like the man Hollywood once worshipped. And when he died in 2019 from a heart attack, most people didn't even realize he was still alive. Number 11. Bernard Lee, M from Bond, Master of the Bottle. He was the voice of authority in 11 James Bond films. The original M, cool, commanding, and always in control. But off camera, Bernard Lee was anything but. His life unraveled in silence, soaked in grief and scotch. After losing his wife in a devastating house fire, Lee slipped into depression so deep, the only thing he reached for was another drink. On set, he was so unreliable they'd lock him in his dressing room to keep him away from alcohol. But Lee found a way, hiring someone to slide a straw through the keyhole so he could keep drinking unnoticed. His addiction was legendary. Even Richard Burton, no lightweight himself, once said Bernard Lee drank him under the table. But there was no glamour to it. Just a slow, quiet collapse. By the time he died of stomach cancer at 73, it was clear. Behind the sharp suits and Secret Service scripts, Bernard Lee had been drowning for years. Number 10. John Barrymore, the genius who couldn't remember his lines. He was royalty, Hollywood royalty. The Barrymore name meant prestige, and John was its crown jewel. A Shakespearean powerhouse turned silver screen legend, he brought Hamlet, Jekyll, and Sherlock Holmes to life with ease. But behind the curtain, alcohol was carving his legacy into a cautionary tale. As the years passed, the drinks took over. He forgot lines. He slurred speeches. He once tried to drink his wife's cologne just to get a fix. By 1936, cue cards became a necessity, not a backup. His hands shook, his eyes dulled, and his career faded with every bottle. In 1942, his body gave out, cirrhosis, kidney failure, and years of self-destruction all catching up. But the most haunting chapter came after death. His drinking buddies, Bogart, Huston, Niven, allegedly borrowed his corpse, sat it in a chair with a drink in hand, and left it in Errol Flynn's home as a prank. That's not a joke. That's how deep into the bottle this circle had fallen. Barrymore died as he lived, surrounded by drunks, remembered more for his demons than his genius. Number 9. Humphrey Bogart, the tough guy who couldn't handle himself. He was the ultimate man's man. The smoky-voiced cynic of Casablanca, the Maltese Falcon, and the African Queen. But Humphrey Bogart wasn't just acting like a tough guy. He was drinking like one too. And behind the charm, there was chaos. Friends said he was a gentleman until 11:30 p.m. After that, the booze took over. He got mean. He got reckless. He once rode a bicycle through the Warner Brothers lot in his pajamas, refusing to work until his wife brought him a thermos full of martinis. He wasn't shy about drinking on set, or fighting off it. He once left a restaurant carrying its safe, drunkenly abandoned it on a boulevard, then forgot it even happened. In one infamous moment, he showed up to an exclusive club with a toy panda and assaulted women who tried to take it away. Even near death, Bogart clung to the bottle. Diagnosed with cancer in 1956, he kept sipping sherry until the end. The man who gave us the most quotable farewell in film history couldn't give himself one. Number 8. Oliver Reed, the beast who drank himself to death. He had the face of a brute, the voice of a king, and the soul of a chaos machine. Oliver Reed wasn't just acting when he played dangerous men, he was one, and nothing fueled that danger like alcohol. With piercing eyes and a scarred face from a drunken bar fight, Reed tore through 120 films, leaving behind a trail of brilliance and broken bottles. Directors like Ridley Scott admired his talent, but feared his drinking. Reed swore off alcohol to land the role of Proximo in Gladiator. He lasted until the final weeks. Then, in Malta, during a night out with British sailors, he took on a drinking challenge. He downed 8 pints of beer, 3 bottles of rum, and multiple shots of whiskey. He dropped dead that night from a heart attack, midway through filming the very movie that was meant to be his comeback. His friend Christopher Lee once said after 8 drinks, Reed became a monster. That monster died as he lived, loud, intoxicated, and utterly unforgettable. Number 7. Richard Burton, the Prince of Tragedy. Richard Burton wasn't just a star. He was Shakespeare reborn, a volcanic presence with a voice like thunder. But that voice, that brilliance, was slowly drowned in vodka. He started drinking at age 12. By adulthood, he was polishing off 3 bottles a day. On set, he was often too unsteady to stand, filming scenes sitting down or flat on his back. Off set, he once drank 21 shots of tequila before diving into shark-infested waters, just to prove he could. Doctors warned him in 1970 that he was killing himself. He ignored them. His kidneys swelled, his spine calcified with crystallized alcohol. And yet, he kept drinking. Even after marrying Elizabeth Taylor twice, his real love story was always with the bottle. When he died in 1984 at just 58, no one was surprised. Saddened, yes, but not surprised. Richard Burton was one of the finest actors to ever live, and one of the most determined to drink himself into the grave. Number 6. Peter O'Toole, the drunk who forgot. He was the star. 8 Oscar nominations, Lawrence of Arabia, a face carved for the big screen. But Peter O'Toole didn't just chase roles, he chased oblivion. And more often than not, he caught it. During the filming of Lawrence of Arabia, he drank so heavily in Beirut that locals still tell stories. On another night, he took a date to a play, only to realize he was the lead actor and had completely forgotten. He once woke up in Corsica after having just one beer in Paris. O'Toole joked that he learned about JFK's assassination 22 years after it happened. That wasn't comedy. It was confession. By the time the pain in his gut forced him to quit drinking, the damage was irreversible. His once magnetic looks had faded into a ghostly shell, a portrait of a man burned out from the inside. Peter O'Toole wasn't just drunk. He was lost. And while the world saw brilliance, what he saw was always through a fog of gin and regret. Number 5, W.C. Fields, the funniest man you never wanted to be. U.C. Fields could make anyone laugh, except himself. Behind the bulbous nose and sharp wit was a man drinking himself into oblivion. His nasal voice, his grumpy on-screen persona. They weren't just characters. They were symptoms. Fields was known to drink more than 2 quarts of gin a day. Not occasionally, daily. He didn't hide it either. He once joked that he kept gin in a water bottle for health reasons. But the truth wasn't funny. He suffered from delirium tremens, severe tremors, and collapsed on more than one set. By the mid-1930s, even Paramount gave up on him. But somehow, he clawed back through radio, trading slurred scripts for quick wit alongside a ventriloquist dummy. It was ironic. He could barely stand, but his voice still charmed America. In his final years, he lived in a sanatorium, with doctors trying to keep him away from what he loved most. But it was too late. On Christmas Day, 1946, a holiday he openly hated, W.C. Fields bled to death from a gastric hemorrhage. Even that sounded like one of his punchlines. But it was the end of the joke. Number 4, Errol Flynn, Cirrhosis by the Sea. He was Hollywood's original bad boy, a smirking daredevil who made Robin Hood look tame. Women wanted him, men envied him, and studios couldn't get enough of his charm. But Errol Flynn didn't just play the reckless hero. He was him. And his greatest enemy wasn't a sword fight. It was the bottle. Flynn drank like it was his job. His Malibu home was nicknamed Cirrhosis by the Sea. He partied with gangsters, politicians, and even Fidel Castro. On his private yacht, the booze flowed non-stop, alongside drugs, women, and total madness. Once, he collapsed in an elevator in his early 30s. Doctors told him his heart and lungs were beyond repair. He didn't flinch. He kept drinking. By the time he died of a heart attack at just 50, the once dashing icon was bloated, broken, and drowning in debt. Errol Flynn wanted to live fast and die famous. He got both. But behind that devilish grin was a man rotting long before the credits rolled. Number 3, Judy Garland, the girl they fed pills until she broke. She sang Over the Rainbow, but Judy Garland never found peace on the other side. Groomed by the studio system from childhood, she was handed pills to wake up, pills to perform, pills to sleep, until addiction wasn't a choice. It was routine. MGM controlled her life. They told her she was too fat, too emotional, too difficult. So she drank to feel human again. Her voice, once angelic, became shaky. Her body, once adored, became frail. And her spirit? That was crushed long before her final curtain call. She married 5 times, battled financial ruin, and suffered multiple breakdowns, all while trying to stay relevant in an industry that used her up before she turned 30. Her drinking worsened, often mixing with pills until she'd vanish from sets or collapse on stage. In 1969, at just 47, Judy was found dead in a London bathroom from a barbiturate overdose. The coroner ruled it accidental, but by then, her entire life had been one long accident orchestrated by a system that fed on vulnerability. Judy Garland wasn't just destroyed by alcohol, she was manufactured to break. Number 2, Montgomery Clift, the longest suicide in Hollywood. Montgomery Clift had it all. The looks, the talent, the mystique. He was the actor's actor, praised by Brando and idolized by generations to come. But behind those sad, expressive eyes was a man unraveling in slow motion. After a horrific car crash in 1956 shattered his face, Clift became a ghost of himself. His jaw was wired shut, his features altered, and his confidence obliterated. He turned inward and toward the bottle. What began as a coping mechanism became his cage. He stopped showing up. When he did, he was bloated, shaking, barely able to remember lines. Studios still wanted him, but what they got was a man in constant pain. Physical, emotional, and deeply private. He refused help. He numbed everything. Marlon Brando once called Clift's decline the longest suicide in Hollywood. When he died in 1966 at just 45, it wasn't sudden. It was a quiet surrender. Montgomery Clift didn't burn out. He faded, slowly, tragically, until there was nothing left but silence and a half-empty glass. Number 1. Tallulah Bankhead, the Queen of Chaos. Tallulah Bankhead wasn't just a Hollywood legend. She was a storm wrapped in silk and scandal. A Broadway darling turned film icon, she shocked and mesmerized with every entrance. But behind the wit, the cigarettes, and the devil-may-care laugh was a woman completely consumed by alcohol. She once said, "I never drink anything stronger than gin before breakfast." That wasn't a punchline, it was her reality. Tallulah drank constantly, unapologetically, proudly, and she didn't care who knew. On set, she slurred her lines, stumbled through scenes, and terrified directors. Off-set, she partied like her life depended on it, and maybe it did. Her health declined rapidly. By the 1950s, her once commanding beauty was gone, replaced by a frail, ravaged shell. Her voice became raspy, her memory unreliable, and her public appearances increasingly bizarre. Still, she refused to quit, the bottle or the spotlight. When she died in 1968 at age 66, the cause was pneumonia. But decades of drinking had already hollowed her out. Tallulah Bankhead didn't just lose herself to alcohol. She invited it in, named it a guest of honor, and let it burn her legacy to the ground. Behind the spotlight, the shadows. They were stars, brilliant, magnetic, unforgettable. But in the end, their greatest roles couldn't save them from the thing they couldn't act their way out of. The bottle didn't care how many Oscars they had or how loud the applause was. It just waited. Some drank to escape. Others drank because they didn't know how to stop. And as the cameras rolled and the fans cheered, their real lives quietly crumbled behind the scenes. This isn't just a list of famous drunks. It's a reminder that even legends bleed, even icons break. And sometimes the price of fame isn't measured in dollars. It's measured in years stolen, families shattered, and dreams drowned. If someone you know is struggling with addiction, don't look away. There's help, there's hope, and there's still time. Thanks for watching. If this story moved you, hit like, share it, and subscribe for more untold stories from the golden age of Hollywood. We're just getting started.